second. So I'm out in the woodland today, trying out the Rinaldi Axe that I was tuning up in the last video. So I've been through a few different scenarios, testing. There's quite a few mozzies around here today in the woodland. But I went through a number of different tasks which I'll go through shortly, but I wanted to start the discussion with really just talking about the idea of a one-tool bushcraft option. Can you actually go to the bush, into the wilderness, and have one tool? So that's really the idea that I wanted to consider, and I wanted to start the discussion looking at this particular axe. It's actually called a Demu, and it was given to my grandfather. I grew up in southern Africa, and on one of the farms where I was living, my grandfather used to run that farm, and this was given to him by local tribesmen. And at that time, which was probably the 1950s, the tribesmen all used to carry a tool like this, and they used to use this exclusively for a lot of the work that they'd do in the bush. They'd go into the bush, they'd use this tool for felling trees, for limbing trees, for splitting their firewood, digging out roots. This was pretty much the only tool they would carry. It's constructed from a hardwood, and this is actually part of the root bowl, so it's very hard, dense section, and then the just hand forged blade. And in this instance, a lot of these around this time, they were made out of old car springs, and they would just put them in a fire, beat them out, and then they'd actually drive them right through that root bowl. So very simple but very effective. It's very hard, it's been hardened in the fire, and it is a hardwood anyway. But it was interesting is that this tool, and it's similar length to the Rinaldi Axe, very similar length. So it's actually a versatile length, so you can actually do felling activities, but also more close-up activities. So a very simple tool, and that was really almost like a one-tool option they had. So I just thought it was quite striking and quite interesting when you consider, is a one-tool option even feasible? I think a lot of the discussion on one tool for bushcraft really focuses on survival. And I think in a survival situation, really, you're unlikely to have any tool, because you're probably in a situation that's unplanned. And certainly in my situation, the only time I'd ever be in something like that is whether it was in a plane crash. And if I was in a plane crash, I'd be unlikely to have any of my tools with me. So I think in bushcraft, we're fortunate. We're able to plan our trips. We head out with a variety of tools. There's lots of tools, or axes, knives you can choose from in this day and age. So we're very fortunate that we can actually plan our trips, head out into the forest, and use any tool we want. So the question is it really relevant to talk about one tool option for bushcraft? So I think where it is useful and where it's worth thinking about is, firstly, weight. Can you actually travel really lightly? Because we can be inundated and weighed down with a lot of our tools. So I think considering weight is certainly one approach to why would you want one tool. And I think the other one really is limiting your choices hones your skills. If you really limit it down to a very basic set of tools, you really have to develop your skills a lot more. You don't have it's like woodworking. If you just stick with hand tools rather than all the automated tools, you're forced to hone your skills a lot more. So I think that's where I see the idea of a one-tool bushcraft option is really about, can I go out into the bush with relatively few tools, or just one, and can I really get my skills to a level where it actually is feasible to use just that one tool. So today I did some felling activities, bucking a log, limbing a log, splitting a log for a spoon blank, and then actually doing some spoon blank carving. So of course it's not the most ideal axe for any of those activities, but it actually did function admirably well in all of those tasks. So you wouldn't want to use this axe to fell a giant tree, and you also wouldn't want to use it for detailed spoon carving, but you can actually use it to a degree for all those activities. So I think in summary, it is quite interesting and a good exercise in developing your skills. Could we take a tool that's been used by tribal cultures for many centuries and is still, I believe, still in use in certain parts of Africa as their main tool? And I think it's really interesting that in some ways it's quite a similar tool, this Rinaldi Axe. It's relatively cheap and it actually performs really, really well. So I'm very impressed with this axe, and I think it's a good choice for anybody who wants to try out a one tool option relatively cheaply. And yeah, very, very happy with this axe. So I think it's time for my brew now and to finish off and before it gets too cold. So thanks for watching. Cheerio.